Hey, Stevie Nani here. Before we get to our junkyard crawl video for today, just a heads up, on October 1st, if you're in the Durant, Oklahoma area, I'll be there live at Spanky Assiter's inaugural Freedom Choctaw Collector Car Auction at the Choctaw Casino and Resort Event Center, again in Durant, Oklahoma, where a whole bunch of cool collector cars are going to get sold, many of them at no reserve. And I'll be on the stage live doing commentary. One of the best cars and most special cars in that event is going to be the actual 58 Chevrolet Impala, fully restored, that was once owned by Peggy Sue Gerron. Yes, that Peggy Sue, the star of several Buddy Holly songs. Pretty, pretty, pretty Peggy Sue. That was her 58 Impala. That car is going to get sold at no reserve, again, on October 1st at the inaugural Freedom Choctaw Collector Car Auction in Durant, Oklahoma, October 1st. Be there if you want to take a shot at that car and just check out a great auction. Okay, let's get right into the junkyard crawl here at Bernardston Auto Wrecking. Hey, Stevie Nani here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts with a 1957 DeSoto Fire Sweep. Or Fire Flight, excuse me, I should know that. The quarter panel says Fire Flight. Now we got to remember that DeSoto was named after Spanish explorer Hernando DeSoto, who, well, was one of the main discoverers of the United States. In fact, he was the first European to cross the Mississippi River. And in fact, at age 44, Hernando DeSoto died on the banks of the Mississippi River, and his body has yet to be found. Apparently, the word is he told the native Indians that he was a god, and when he passed, his people didn't want the Indian folks to find out that he wasn't really a god because he died. So they buried his body in secret, and the legend of Hernando DeSoto lived on. But DeSoto also lived on at Chrysler between 1928 and 1961, 33 years, which is 11 years less than Hernando lived. He was 44 when he died. But this car is, again, in 1957, the first year for Chrysler's Forward Look, the work of Virgil Exner. And the beauty of these things really is these sweeping quarter panels with these big fins that really show General Motors and Ford the way to the dealership. And these were very popular cars. In fact, 1957 was DeSoto's third best sales year ever, with 117,514 cars sold. Of them, 11,565 were four-door sedan Fireflights like this. Now the sedan means, of course, has fixed pillars, full door frames, little vent window in the back that pops out. You could get a four-door hardtop known as the Sportsman in the Fireflight line, but this is kind of the base car. This is the most popular one of them all. But again, DeSoto had a very good year in 57. Of course, that would change and they'd be gone by 61. But here's the deal. On the back of these things, these beautiful fins are the work of Virgil Exner, who I've mentioned here on this podcast before. And, you know, I don't want to bust on Exner at all, but here's a book here done by Peter Grist with there's Virgil on the cover, and Exner, of course, was a very well-regarded designer. And the beauty is, his Forward Look was all about, you know, giving cars an aerodynamic style that they pretty much lacked before he arrived. Now, here's the thing. If you look here, here's the back of a DeSoto Fireflight in this 1957 DeSoto ad, and you can see how clean it is. Look at that exhaust pipe right there. Well, here's the thing. On the Adventurer, which was the top model, those were functional, but for 32 bucks, you could get the dual exhaust on any DeSoto that you wanted. And the pipes actually came through the bumper. You can see right here, moot testimony. The exhaust pipe would come through here, here's the muffler clamp, and then make a 90-degree angle up through this hole and then out the front of the till right there. Now this car, I think, was a dual exhaust car. Again, it is a Fireflight, so these would have had a 4-barrel and I think standard dual exhaust. But again, for 32 bucks, you could get dual exhaust on a 2-barrel V8 if you wanted it, and that made both of these outlets functional. But here it is on the passenger side, once again, inside the bumper, this 90-degree tube, which is ready to accept the right-hand exhaust if you ordered dual exhaust. And again, it's all bent up here, but this would come right out here and give these dual exhausts a true jet function, helping to thrust the car down the road. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but the styling was really advanced on these things. One thing I love is how the rear license plate is indented into the deck lid. Just a nice little touch. And of course, here is DeSoto's logo. Reference, of course, to Hernando, the Spanish explorer. Let's take a walk around to the front. And again, these quarter panels are massive. These cars were actually longer than a Cadillac in 1957. Let's try and open the doors. Not going to happen. Look at the whole side of the car. World-class rust right here. Ooh, the wishing jar. What do we have here? Huh. Let's see, what year is this newspaper from? The stuff you find in a car. You never know. Okay, here it is. Pharmaceutical salesman, Springfield area, for a world-renowned pharmaceutical organization promoting drug specialties to physicians, hospitals. Who's this? By Seba Pharmaceutical. Huh. Well, maybe I'll sign up. I could use a job. This is probably from 1960, something like that. Anyway, wishes, wishes. Here we have the torque flight transmission, the remains of it, 1957. Now don't confuse this with the 727, which came out in 1962. This is the cast iron beast, and this is called the 466, the A466 torque flight. It's a 3-speed, very modern tranny. In fact, people who know 727s will recognize this right here. There's an accumulator piston that lives inside of that. Same architecture on the aluminum case, 727. But again, 3-speed torque flight right here. Standard in the Fireflight, but optional for $220 in lesser fire sweep DeSoto's. The original hubcap still in place. Kind of weird to see that on a car that's so badly maligned and smashed around. Now, 57 was the first year for quad headlights on DeSoto's, but only on the Adventurer. But late in the year, you could get quad headlights on all DeSoto's. Now, this one here has rusted so badly, we can't really tell what kind of lights it had. But if we look behind the front wheel, one thing we won't see is a coil spring. That's because this 1957 is the first year for Chrysler's torsion air front suspension. Torsion air has nothing to do with airbags, but rather torsion bars. Let's take a look. All right, yeah, we take a peek under the hood, and we'll see that there's no spring towers, nothing like that. Rather, these are the front torsion bars right here. There's one on each side. These are anchored at the back. There's a hex head formed into each end, and these things do the twisting. We've seen these things on GMC and Chevrolet trucks. A couple of videos last week, and the 63 and earlier Chevy trucks used torsion bars. Well, of course, Chrysler from 57 through the early 80s used torsion bars on their rear-wheel drive cars. Now, this one would have had one of 3 different engines ranging from 325 to 345 cubic inches. And again, being a Fireflight, this would have had a single 4-barrel. And one thing about 57 DeSoto's, they all had Hemi head V8s. That would change in 58 and 59, but 57, nothing but Hemi. So we know for sure this DeSoto Fire Dome Hemi undoubtedly found a home in somebody's hot rod way back when. We make our way around here. And this one's not an air conditioning car. It does have a factory heater. This is Massachusetts. Pretty much you would not want to have a car without a heater in Mass. And let's look inside of this thing. Now, I can't get the doors open, but one thing that's interesting to look at is sort of the inexpensive architecture. The door frames are sort of extruded aluminum, and these little trim tabs down here are kind of hokey. Look at that, little Phillips head screws or flathead screw. Basically a trim tab to hide where these go into the door. But there it is, man. BMW would not do something like that, but common stuff for Detroit in the 1950s. But inside, of course, a bent seat, and we can see the Fireflight logo ahead of or above the steering column. And over there by the base of the windshield pillar, we see 5 buttons. Of course, that tells us this one has the 3-speed torque flight automatic, which was standard in Fireflight, but could be had for $320 in lesser DeSoto's. But there was also a Powerflight 2-speed automatic, which was available in cheaper DeSoto's, which would only have 4 buttons. And again, we see this is a full frame car. We can see the remains of the frame. Here's the frame right here, rotted to nothingness. We can see it's pretty well thrashed out, but unit construction wouldn't arrive until 1960 on full-sized Chrysler products. So again, this is a body-on-frame car. And boy, don't it show it. The floors are gone. And again, this is a Massachusetts car. I've seen these things in Arizona and California in pretty good shape. But again, this car, I'm afraid, is pretty well gone. But we still have a lot of useful things. The aluminum anodized door frames, the glass, still pretty decent on this thing. So there's hope, I guess, for somebody restoring one of these things. And something cool, here we have right here, the tail-mounted antenna. This was probably a radio-equipped car. And this is where the antenna would come through right there. It wasn't about isolating the radio mast from ignition noise like it would be on a Corvette or a 6-pack Roadrunner from '69, but rather that was about speedboat styling, where you go across the water, the antenna would be off the back, kind of cool, streamlined. And again, that was a standard feature. For another $18, you can get twin antennas, or antennae, or whatever we'd call them, on the back of your DeSoto. But again, that's the story of this 1957 DeSoto Fireflight. Now we know where this one is here in the junkyard at Bernardston Auto Wrecking. As far as our man Hernando DeSoto, well, his body still remains a mystery as to where it is. Somewhere, some say it's on the banks of the Mississippi River. Some say it's in the river. We don't know. But we know for sure this one's sitting right here at Bernardston Auto Wrecking. Now, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to Steve Mag's YouTube channel and come back tomorrow for another fresh video.